Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy Monday, everybody in the chat. I hope your Monday is starting off great. I'm hoping you're feeling well. You're avoiding any of these crazy viruses that's going on right now. You're avoiding the Christmas blues right now. For those of you who get it, I don't get it because I don't take it. I don't be doing all of that. But my husband drives himself crazy this time of year. So don't do that. It is what it is. And Santa not real. So I hope you all are doing great today. Today's topic is going to be a really good discussion, and it's kind of piggybacking off of the content that we've kind of been addressing, which is important, bringing new keepers and keeping new keepers into the hobby. And so we're going to be addressing some of the proper ways we should respond to some of the things that may even irk our skin as seasoned keepers, or irk our skins as people who are seeking information and getting responses from people that are totally rude or inappropriate. And we know that a lot of new keepers get turned off by that. So there's a whole nother community of reptile keepers that I always talk about because I was a part of that community for many years that keep animals but refuse to deal with social media. More now so, not because of the fact that they just don't like social media. It's more now so is that they see that some of the people in the community are not welcoming. And that is important as we continue to strive to grow the community. So we're going to kind of be talking about that, but more into detail. I can tell you now, me and Dre don't always see eye to eye on this topic. So this will be one of those ones. But we also have two different audiences. So I keep in mind that I'm a professional, right? So I try to make sure that I don't lay out somebody in comments or in a response that could potentially be a customer. So Dre doesn't have that side of the hobby as of yet, but I know he inspires to. So I always try to make sure that he is mindful of that. So let me just say hi to everybody real fast. I know Stan was number one. Hey Stan, #Q was in here. Don D. Ken, LMK, Ken, no T, Ken is in here. Elias, what's up, bro? Joey D, I missed the show yesterday. I went to bed early and ended up waking up 1 o'clock in the morning. But I had got up super early yesterday to start my day. And yesterday was the first day in a long time I feel like I had some real rest. So yes, I gotta watch the replay today for sure. Elias, from my experience, a lot of new keepers come in aggressive and judgmental to seasoned keepers. When you come in arrogant, it makes me not want to help. Elias, that's one of my topics today, which kind of, so I'll talk about what kind of made me make this a topic. And it was more from that perspective to start, Elias. That is true. And we're going to talk about that part too. And talk about when we get to that part when we just don't want to help. Like we can just not help without, making somebody feel less of a person, From KT, good morning. Good morning. Ken said, I'm driving and listening. What's up to anyone in the chat? Ken is driving and listening. Jessica, good morning, Jessica. I missed you. I know I saw you earlier too, so I missed you. I apologize. Good morning, nephew. Good morning. Good morning. How are you? Awesome. So let's get started. I want to first, of course, start off with first of all, if you have not watched the episode of Trap Talk, I didn't see it live. I had to watch I'm glad I watched the replay because I think that It was kind of like more focused for me at that time. I was actually laying in the bed, so I was actually watching it, being able to lay in the bed and watch it on with focus, because sometimes when I'm watching shows, I'm doing other stuff and I don't get a chance to focus in on the screen, although I might be in and out the chat and hearing everything. So I was like literally watching this as if I was watching a TV show. By far, forget podcast. By far, one of the most touching, authentic, passionate experiences ever. Watching, first of all, shout out to MJ, because I couldn't have done it if that was like a Kevin McCurley. And I know how MJ feels about Brian Barczyk. That is like a Kevin. How I feel about Kevin is how he feel about Brian. And that was my comment on the video. Like, I don't know how you poise yourself to even do this. But there were moments through watching that show that Brian was so vulnerable to the truth, to what he really see as the possibilities in his future, where it was almost watching a dad tell his son who's in denial what those possibilities might be. And I thought that MJ handled that like a professional. And I often joke about this podcast stuff that it is not that serious, you're right? But that to me was a Oprah Winfrey moment for TV type of situation. So shout out to MJ. That was most inspiring. If you guys are not followers of Trap Talk, or if you don't watch it often, or whatever the case may be, that was one to watch. It's one to share with your friends and family, because a lot of my family, and I know the same for you guys, watch Brian Barczyk. They know, if you don't know nothing about the reptile community, you know who Brian Barczyk is, you know who Jay Brewer is, for most people in my family. Even if they don't understand the dynamics of them in this community, they know who they are, right? Whether I want them to know who Jay Brewer is or not. But it is a phenomenal rewatch. If you haven't watched it, and watching it for me was either this is going to be the video we look back at when Brian overcome this, or the video we look back when he's no longer here. That was the video for me. And the things that Brian said in that video will impact lives one way or the other. So when I thought about what I wanted to share about Brian today, I wanted to go to where we go for prayer of serenity. And I don't know if I uploaded it, probably not, but I know I have it on my phone, so I'll just read it. So I did want to, we all know the serenity prayer, but I thought that this is what came into my heart and my mind. And it reads, "Dear gracious and loving God, as I take this time to be still, help me to let go of anxiousness and feel your peace. Your word says that you are love, and where there is love, there can be no fear." That podcast was filled with love, a whole lot of love, both ways. Brian's love for this community, because again, if I was the person facing life this way, to hell with all of y'all. I would be focused on me. And he's still popping out videos left, right, back and forth, inside and out. I think it's absolutely amazing. So shout out to MJ. Continue to love and pray for Brian. And I think that I'm still inspired. I think he's going to be the example, the living example that people need to see of God's grace. But just listening to him and being acceptance of wherever direction it could go, whatever direction it goes, we now have a masterpiece, I feel, in that podcast that we can reflect to make us feel good about if Brian is here next year for Animal Con or if he's not. That's how amazing that podcast was to me. So shout out to Brian and shout out to MJ. I don't know how MJ did it. Thank you. I'm glad you got through it. Elias, you know me. I can get emotional, but normally it's not podcast emotional. Like watching something like that. First of all, it wasn't watching a podcast. It wasn't watching a simple reptile podcast for me at that moment. Everything and every word that was said, and I'm glad I didn't see it live because the chat was not a factor. So I was totally focused on them. There was so much intimacy that happened in communication and the nonverbal communication. Like when MJ would say certain things, how Brian's body language responded. And I won't go into that, but as a person who studied mortuary science, grief counseling teach you a lot of things. And where we haven't accepted a lot of things, Brian is already at that point of whatever it is, I have accepted, whether he's happy about it or not, and it was kind of watching, like Brian would say something where it was conclusive to the fact of whatever happens, all I care about is that my family is okay and, blah, blah, blah. And MJ was battling like, no, like you're going to be here, and it was just watching the two different levels of grief, watching acceptance and watching denial. But I will tell you that I truly believe we're going to be sitting here a year later, and it's going to be like watching that back and watching the tables turn and watching him come back on that podcast to talk about redemption. That's my thought. That's my prayer. That's my hope. And that's what I really feel. I don't believe that there is, how you say, everything happened for a reason. There's a reason to take him at this time. Not that it's a reason to take anybody at this time. I just think the reptile community is so vulnerable right now. And I think they will throw another level of vulnerability in the air that we don't need. And he's definitely a man who demands respect. I repeat, demands respect. It's no humor in a man's, or no irony in a man's facing life and death. So shout out to y'all. Great job. So into our topic, I want to first start off where this came from. So I was on TikTok, y'all. I spend a lot of time on TikTok, even if I'm just watching. And there's a lot of people who are now going to TikTok to, show their animals and provide education. Although everybody are not at that point of doing that. For example, if you ask me about an animal that I'm not in an expertise of, like for instance, I have a leopard gecko. I don't have a leopard gecko. Michael has a leopard gecko. Michael wanted the leopard gecko. I'm not a leopard gecko type of girl. If you ask me questions about leopard geckos, I'm tell you I don't know. I don't know shit about leopard geckos. I know what it eats. Because I help Michael feed it. I know it needs to be cleaned. But if you ask me what type of morph it is and all that type of stuff, I don't know. So even when I'm live, if someone asks me a question about an animal I don't keep or I don't have expertise in, I don't know. So I was watching a live, and good morning, Tim. And in this particular live, a young lady, very young, Caucasian girl, very articulate. She owns like a ball python, a gecko, and probably two other things. And she was going into detail about ball python husbandry. And someone came into the chat to correct her because the person said you're 90% wrong, and she was 90% wrong. But when the person went to, I feel like, kindly correct her in the live, she went into, then I know I got this, I have this ball python, and my ball python this, and my ball python that, but she's very young, don't have the years of experience. And you can clearly tell by the person who was commenting in the chat that they definitely own more than one. Oh my God, girl. So they definitely, had more than one. So I don't comment in those cases. Like, if you believe that you are keeping your animal the best way that you can, as long as none of the people who are keeping my animals are in your life listening and believing it, I really don't care what you say. I will say sometimes you should further research that more broadly, because the difference between a fact and an opinion is that a fact is a conclusive a conclusive situation where it's supported by documents, it's supported by discovery, it's supported by testing and experiment. Where opinions can be experimented, but they may be still hypotheses. They're not conclusive. So a lot of times when I talk about reticulated pythons, you don't hear me say all. I say my reticulated pythons, reticulated pythons that I produced. Now, if it's something general, like about what's the average size of a reticulated python and things like that, then I can answer that on a more broad perspective. There's certain things that you'll hear me say my reticulated python, because this I have experimented, and it is factual and documented with my reticulated python. If I do this, 100% of the time it's going to do that. But that may not be the case with Dre's reticulated pythons, or Reptile Bay, or Don D's, or Tim's, right? So specifically when I say that I love TikTok for the ability to bring in new keepers and educate people, I do think we have a responsibility to correct the misinformation. And I think that the approach should be like that person did. That person didn't come in there ignorant. They was like, I just want to say that 90% of what you said is incorrect. Then the person who was doing the live took the attack. And they, with their one ball python, already thought they knew the history and the position and disposition of every ball python ever created. So it became like a back and forth that newcomers don't need to see, right? So for me, if that's me, I said what I said, 90% of your information is wrong. If that's how I felt, the person comes back at me that way. It goes to what Elias said earlier. Yes, Elias, we at that particular point don't feel like we want to help. But I think that what I will follow up with is my experience, because that's the other part of this. You have fact, you have opinion, and you have experience. I always said experience is the best teacher, because you're the one who is taking the opinions and testing the hypothesis and trying to determine if it's factual or not. And in that window of fact and opinion is all this experience that you have, that is quantitative data that you can actually use to not argue a point, but to demonstrate your point, whether it's written in a book or not, as a fact. This is what I can tell you happens 100% of the time if I do this with this particular animal. I can tell you that I've kept animals for 35 plus years, and this is how ball pythons seem to be healthy. I can tell you that I have kept reticulated pythons, and none of them are alike. You know what I'm saying? So I can tell you these things based on my experience. I can tell you that my corn snake is the chillest snake that I have. You barely see him. He don't need all that attention because I've kept him for now 7 to 8 years. And that's been the experience. I can tell you I have 100% of the time one reticulated python that if you open her door, she's not coming out on her own, because that is my experience. So we could take that and explain to people that way, especially these new educators, how long have you been, keeping reptiles? Ask the question, not within an attack way, like, yeah, but how long have you been keeping? No, how long have you been keeping reptiles? The person responds back, I've been keeping them 3 years. That is awesome. That is great. You seem to have gained some knowledge in the last 3 years. However, I've been keeping them 35 years. I've been keeping them 40 years. So I've been keeping them 50 years. And this has been my experience. I think that's very important to say before you exit that live, because other people coming in needs to know that at that particular point, without you attacking that person, that person's commentary may not be 100% correct, and they don't feel like they're running with an expert at that particular time. Not that anybody is an expert, but there are some of us who are more familiar with certain animals than others. If you do not feel the need to help or support, then I would say don't say anything at all, because what does also come off not great is when you have the seasoned keeper and the non-seasoned educator, or vice versa, going back and forth with each other. Because Elias made another point earlier that some of the newer keepers think they know it all, and they don't have enough experience to even argue the point. And sometimes you just have to sit back and observe and listen when it comes to certain things that you know that you're not an expertise of. I am amazed at people who can read the language of tarantulas. I can't, so I don't handle them. I can tell you that there is a couple tarantulas that I own that I'm 100% probably confident that if I pick them up, just because of how their food response is, that they probably would not bite. But then there are other ones who they're inconsistent in eating, or how I feed them, or what happens when I approach them, or if I take or open the enclosure and things like that. So I'm not going to sit here and do a video on the proper way of how to handle a tarantula. It will be a disaster, because if that tarantula looks like it's going to bite, y'all going to see me run all the hell, and it's going to be in the house somewhere, and y'all going to see me not come back in the house. That's the one animal that cannot escape in here, is the tarantulas. Me and Slim gone. So Michael probably the only one bold enough to stay. But with that, you stick to what your expertise in, for sure. Reptile Base said, yeah, y'all don't come for me when I'm knowing it all. And again, it's like, it's based on, because honestly, Reptile Bay, I'll give you an example when it comes to the retail. It took people seeing the fact that I had multiple reticulated pythons to say, okay, maybe she does know what she's talking about, Oh, let me watch several videos. Oh, damn, she can do that with them. It's a respect that you have to earn, sure. But for me, there's also the vets. That the vets say something, or make a comment, not saying that I'm gonna run with it, but I'm gonna open my ears and listen, especially like on the breeding side of it. That's not the side that I feel like, although I feel like they definitely breed themselves well. Before that first clutch, that was a new experience for me. So anything that they said on the breeding side, I'm gonna open my ears. Was it things that I still try my own way? Absolutely, and I'm glad I did. But you definitely have to respect the people who've been doing it longer than we have. Although some people won't evolve, and I'm that way in certain ways. There's certain things that I have never had some of these issues people said they had with their reptiles. So why change what I've been doing for many, many years? So I'm not going to be one that jump on every change. There are some changes that I do like, and some changes that I don't like. Like, I'll give you an example. Yes, I never thought that I would say that it's okay to keep a ball python in a rack system. If you're breeding, I think it's absolutely fine. But even in that situation, I think that they should have some enrichments, PVC poles or something like that, enough space for them to still be able to do things in there. That's just my personal opinion. I don't think that every breeder and those who have a whole warehouse full of animals should be going in there putting in PVC poles and stuff so the animals can climb. That's just not what I expect. Elias says, I just don't get people owning a snake for a year and now want to be an educator. It's the whole thing of the paid content, Elias, and that's just the honest truth. The younger generation has figured out how to make money off of social media better than any of us. And so it becomes just another thing and another way to, they like being on it. They're very creative with it. to make money. I get there. Why? I don't knock anybody. That's the same thing I say when people used to talk about Cardi B. She was a stripper hoe. Look at her now. I'm not knocking anybody who finds a way to make money that is not illegal or detrimental to their health. But I do think that it is becoming vast too many, and we do have to kind of check each other in that situation, especially with the newer keepers and the newer information. But the why, I know the why they're doing it, especially for TikTok. I know the why they're doing it. Is it the right reason? No, but I know the why. They know how to whip a dollar. I laugh so hard. Like, it's this girl that everybody follows on TikTok and Facebook. And when I tell you this, to me, she is the most screwed up person and she has the most screwed up life, but she makes millions off of her life. It's them daggone, what's her name? Brianna, the Hamptons. A whole shit show. But they learn how to make money off it. And they're very wealthy off it. Blame the world. And the anti-red crew just need to leave me alone. They will never win this battle. Good morning, Bosa. Reptile Face said, it's because we get so many questions and a lot of them we can't answer. True. So I do think also there are people who are just on social media just to attack people too. And so that's where Dre would say I disagree with him. I do think that certain people should be laid in the shade, but I don't think that should be the go-to. You should, first of all, discern the difference, because some people ask ignorant questions because they just don't know. Hugh said, we are free to pick and choose what changes we feel will better the lives of our animals. No one has this thing down to a perfect science. Agreed. And again, that's where it comes into, like, if you're arguing the fact of if you don't have water in your reptile enclosure is absolutely despicable and that's not okay. That's where, yes, get rid of the steak or give it water. You know what I'm saying? But that's a fact. Fact is a living being, it needs water to live. But even does it need cold water? Does it need warm water? That's a question. You know what I'm saying? I can tell you, my snakes love cold water. How do I know? As soon as I put cold water in there, they run to the bowl. And that's whether it's a ball python, whether it's a corn snake, whether it's a reed tick. I don't care if it's a boa, whatever it is. As soon as I put cold water in there, they go to it. The only one I haven't seen do that is the green tree. So I, based on that, has made the professional hypothesis that my animals prefer cold water to drink. They might not want it to be sitting in, but they do prefer cold water to drink. And that's what I mean. So if you're on a live and someone is like arguing that point, well, maybe your king cobra like warm water. You know what I'm saying? But the animals I keep here is a fact. When I put cold water in there, they run to them bowls. No sooner than I close it and they sense that the cold water is there, you will almost can catch all of them drinking within the next 30 minutes. Now, anybody else notice that? Like, do you ever test that or watch that with your animals with temperature of water? Because that's something that people actually go back and forth on. So if you're warm water and if you put warm water in there for your animal, which I just don't think from a scientific perspective is healthy, because that warm water will get warmer quicker, which would gain more bacteria quicker than going from cold to warm. You know what I'm saying? That's just my thought. That's an opinion. That's an inconclusive statement. But a fact is, when I change out water bowls in this house for any of my reptiles that visually see, they're going straight to the water bowl once they sense it. So within 30 minutes, you can guarantee that you've seen each one of them go over to that water bowl and take a drink. And I would say that fares the same for my tarantulas. Normally when I change out their water, it's the only time I ever see them near their water bowl like that. It's when I change it out. I don't really see them drink the water like a day after the water was put in there. So it's definitely something that you can check it out, observe it with your, and that's the thing. Y'all, I keep books. I'll show y'all. So I know we just joke about it a lot that I keep data on everything. So for each animal I have, including the breeder stuff that's in in the reptile scan data, I keep books, and in these books there's different notes and data that I'll take of things that I see certain animals do. Like for example, the first time I touched the retic tongue, was this just a fluke, or can I get this animal to do this all the time? So I documented the first time that it happened. Then I would do it again a week later and see if the same response would be they'll just put their hand and start licking my hand. Same thing happened. Did it again a week later. Then I just did it again. Started making it habitual. Every time I would take them out, that's how I started to greet them. It's a fact that if I put my hand under my retic chin, it will lick my hand. So that's mine. If no one else is doing it with their retics because you never did it with them, that's fine. You may not have that experience. You don't know what the hell I'm talking about. But, that's the same thing with certain people who feel they got ball pythons who are more responsive than other people ball pythons. I think those people spend more time with those ball pythons at an earlier age, and they do have those animals that will then become conditioned to react to certain things that you do. So like kind of like a cause and effect. If I do this, they do that. Tim said, can't wait until I figure out how to make my money off it. These kids got it down packed though, Tim. Shoot. They buying houses, Maybachs, and gold chrome Teslas and all kinds of stuff at 22, 25 years old off of social media. Reptile Bay said, I always wondered that. My snake like clean, fresh water. Yeah, that's something that you definitely can observe. Trying it. Yes. Elias said yes, he agreed. Hugh said warm water, who does look, Hugh. It'd be a whole conversation on TikTok and arguments about it. And you got people who feel like if you give them warm water, it sends the snake into shock. Yes, if you stick the snake into cold water, it might send them into shock, but not if you give them cold water to drink. So, but again, you got the people who are hell bent on the fact that a snake shouldn't be given cold water to drink. They should be given warm water to drink. I can't argue it. Maybe their snakes are okay with warm water. I don't know. My experiences is telling me that I'm giving them cold water, and I will continue to do so. I don't know. You'd be surprised on the stuff that people literally are going back and forth on. And again, I'm just sitting, a lot of times I'm just observing. It's enough people already in the comments saying, no, this. Some people be scientists and stuff, and they'll comment it, but the person who's delivering the information is still hell-bent on, they know what they know. I mean, what Reptile Bay, so listen, I can explain. No. I forgot to use warm water on Niles to refills because he lives in it. Yeah, so Tim, that's a fact. Now, Asian water monitor. I don't put her cold water back into Lurie's enclosure. Or I'll put the cold water in there, but I'll let the water heat up before he goes back in there per se. Also, I've learned that Lurie is smart enough to realize that water ain't warm enough for him yet. He won't go in it anyway. That's a sign. Like if I don't see Lurie playing around in his water at some part of the day in his camera, the first thing I go is check water condition because he spends a lot of time in his water. In fact, I remember the first time when I first got him, he was under his water for like 35 minutes. and I thought he was drowning. And I called Kevin. I'm like, oh my God, he's been under the water for like 30-some minutes. And Kevin was like, ma'am, it's the water monitor. No wonder, but he's been under there a long time. But they said that they can go up there 45 minutes to an hour if they want and be just fine. Sometimes that's just where they're comfortable for whatever reason. But that's funny. Reptile Bay said, I've been doing room temperature just because for humans it's not good to drink cold water, but I'm definitely about to try cold. LOL. But see, again, that's a good point from a professional health professional standpoint. Health professionals would tell us as humans that we should drink room temperature water. But I'm telling you, try it. Let me know. Try the cold water experiment. Elias said, facts. Anyone who claims ball pythons are pet rats or boring don't know what they are talking about. They clearly don't handle them much or observe them. Yes, Busy, my spider ball python is a retic in his head. So much that when the retics are out, he want to come out too. Like he see them because his enclosure is at the bottom on closer to the floor. So when they come by, he's sliding along, trying to, it's all based on what you teach it, like what it's used to, and those people I find who you see them having their babies all over them are the people you see having these very attentive adult ball pythons as well. Also said people argue over the dumbest things. Yes, and we'll go we'll block people and everything, bro. Hey, bro, are you moving this weekend or is it next weekend? Yeah, so I mean, again, an example, Reptile Bay, for example, is somebody who is immaculate about her husbandry. It's not an argument. It's what your experience and what your education is. However, how you said I'm gonna try it, right? That's where I think most people fail on both sides. Like for those of us who've been keeping a long time, like there are things that I changed. I'll give you an example. When John Jones told me the first time, change all of my red lights on my snake enclosure. Rest in peace, John. And when he first said it to me, I'm like, John, I've been keeping these snakes like that for years. He was like, yeah. He said, but just try it for me. And the first one I tried it with was the corn snake. And you can clearly see that it was something that made the snake more content. The LED lights versus regular lights to me. I think that my snakes like the daylight of the LED lights and the natural light opposed to any other type of lighting. But that's just, and it works, for us over here. I think a lot of things of what you do too is going to matter depending on where you are. So an example, maybe, and I'm not saying it's the case here in Maryland, but let's say if you live in Maryland and you live somewhere in the mountains where it's cold, giving your snake cold water takes a long time for that water to come to a better temperature or something like that. Maybe it's not the best thing to put cold water in there. I don't know. That's not my experience. But I can definitely tell you, giving a snake warm water in Texas, that snake is going to have hot water real fast. So I'm assuming in Texas, cold water, or in Florida, cold water is definitely the way to go. You say, okay, fam, got to get back. Hugh, thank you for joining in, my brother, and have a great day. Hey, girl. Hey, Morgan, Dad on Morgan. You be having me in tears. In tears. Oh, goodness. Morgan's TikToks, y'all. I don't like where is this music coming from? Like, it's just amazing. And then it's not just the music, it'd be like the voices, it's everything that goes with it. You are incredible with those daggone reels. That's what I'm saying. Like the new generation, like y'all be killing that. I'm getting better though. I be creeping up on y'all. I be learning this stuff. But y'all funny. But 2024, y'all gonna get some different different content. I'm ready to combine two of my talents. my reptiles in another town. So yeah, so that's pretty much like just really just especially for those of y'all who act as ambassadors for the community. Just I know it's hard sometimes, like very hey, look, you know it ain't gonna be that far because hubby ain't having that. But it's gonna be pretty cool. And we need to collab with some stuff too. We need to talk. I know you be busy, but we need to talk. We need to collab. But yeah, just keeping it professional, keeping in mind that people coming in are already nervous about coming into a community where they think it's a bunch of crazy people, although most of us are crazy to a degree, but where they think it's already a bunch of crazy people. And it may be that one person who would have bought 5 ball pythons from a breeder who decided, nope, I don't want nothing to do with it because I got to deal with these people. Our goal is to bring more people in to love what we are doing. Our goal is to bring more people in to get educated properly on ways to keep. And I say ways to keep because it's not one way, but ways to keep effectively. And cool. And to just, keep bringing this, because this part of the hobby, the proper husbandry and keeping, is the part that is needed. Like I said, you can't be a breeder if you don't master that part. That's why I kept for so long before I decided to breed. When you are able to be a amazing keeper first and breed, I think it makes your breeding experience and your keeping experience and your sales experience and your customer experience so much better. You can really teach your customers through experience how to handle their animals, things that they could do better. The setup, like I literally walk my customers through the proper setup for that particular individual animal. And I say individual because it's individually based on how they were here. Like if it was an animal who don't like a hide, I'll say put 1 hide in. If it was an animal who loved hides, give them 3 hides, depending on what type of tub you're putting them in. I always, for me, recommend tubs for my first time keepers for the first year of their animal's life so that they can work to master the husbandry, and pretty much the tubs help with humidity really, really well. And also holding the necessary high side temps and things like that. If it's used on a proper thermostat, tub is one of the best setups for me, in my opinion, for a ball python or a reticulated python up until about a year. And then I recommend PVC. I don't recommend anything other than that. That's my recommendations. However, if my customers decide at year 1 they want to build their own enclosure out of wood or whatever the case may be, that's not my choice. I just want to know that my animal is thriving in that scenario. And if not, I'm going to recommend that you do something different. Once you buy a snake for me, you are my customer for the rest of my life and actually become best friends. And I love it. But, oh my God, be a keeper first. Don't do what I did. Oh, wow, you bred first? Oh, Jesus. Yes, be a keeper first. Absolutely. And see, that's the thing though. We learn from our mistakes as well. I learned really quickly. Like, for example, I learned fast that I bought all these reticulated pythons. I bought the genetics that I bought because I wanted to breed. I learned after a year and a half of keeping that there are not people out there like me that's going to want to keep these animals the way they should be kept. So breed can't be the answer. It has to be occasionally breed them. I do want to reproduce them, but not in masses where they're going to end up in homes. Like right now, at the pace that I have, my animals sell at a pace where I know and can ensure they still go to a good home, but it's not taking up a whole bunch of space here as well. So it's a nice pace. That's because I did 1 clutch and I didn't let them breed or breed them again this year. I'll breed another set. I am going to breed another set and starting next year. I want to go for the start creating my my head albino for my tiger pods. I want my head albinos, so I'm going to breed the tiger pod to the motley tiger and create my head pods. I'm sorry, my head pods. Well, he's head albino too. They double. It'll be double head albino, and then I can, after a few years, breed them back to create my visual pods. So, but that's the plan, and that's going to take some time. Hey, Kai, And that's going to take some good time, and honestly, because in that particular time, um, it gives me time to continue to sell off the ones I have to reduce the collection of ball pythons and things like that as well over the years. So making it more long term so they can find the right, hey Dre, so they can find the right home and everything. So I don't know if you could hear what we were going over and all of that. But pretty much to sum it up, we talked about, oh, let me read this comment first and then I'll pick it up. The co-speaking fact, kept snakes for 9 years before breeding, owning a boa and ball python that are both 15 years old, and seeing the ball python be a mom for the first time was such an accomplishment. Absolutely. And you appreciate it so much more. Reptile Base, I bought 30 ball pythons and decided I wanted to breed something different. Laughed my ass off. Yeah, so we talked about, the difference of facts and opinions. Facts being conclusive with supportive and qualitative and quantitative documentation in a library to support that. And opinions are things that are just based off of different people's experiences with no factual base behind it. It's a hypothesis based on what you have noticed, and then just experience of course, being the best teacher and how to apply understanding how to respond in each scenario. So I use a scenario of, first, Elias raised a scenario of the new keeper who think they know it all, and the experienced keeper not wanting to respond accordingly because the person don't want to listen. And then on the opposite side, the keeper who has the experience and the person who is a newer keeper but has some innovation and some great ideas that, that doesn't have to be an argument. You do what's best and works for your animal. And I brought up the cold water for a snake versus warm water for a snake. I personally give my snakes cold water to drink, and they go straight to it. Some people feel like cold water can shock their system. It can if you place them inside the water, but not if water to drink. So just like stuff like that. Whatever. If your animal is not dying from drinking warm water, we don't care. But any feedback that you have on the topic? I know. Oh, and I also did talk about like how I know you, because we say we disagree on the topic. It's not that we disagree. I think that I keep in mind that I also sell, and I don't ever want to blast somebody who could potentially become a customer. But there are times, and I said in your scenario, where people do need to be shut down, and I don't knock that either. I just don't want to be the person to do it.
Why in my scenario?
No, I'm just using it as an example. No, I'm just using it as an example in your scenario where you will say some very, and I can't even just say some very condescending, because I can't say mean, some very condescending, disrespectful shit with someone. Yes. Then he just say, where is Morgan and Chris? Like, he act like we don't know who we talking about.
Yo, this is crazy on Monday. I already had a rough morning. No,
you know what I mean. And I'm not saying you do it all the time, but I'm just saying, like, I just think that there are some times where we have to consider that the person is just ignorant and not, they just don't know.
Yeah, it's usually easier to decipher that though. So the only time I really get irritated is when somebody continuously asks for my advice and they continuously do the opposite of what I recommended them to do. And then there's always a problem, and then they expect you to fix it. It's hard. It's hard to deal with a situation like that, because it's like, if you would have did what I asked you to do in the first place, you wouldn't be in this situation. Now, there are some situations I could probably do better at, I'll be honest. But I am not a teacher for a reason. I don't have that type of patience. I'll help you as much as I can, but again, if I see you're allowing, keyword, allowing your ignorance to be in the way of you learning, then I can't help you. I don't have patience for it. And at the end of the day, I got my own animals to take care of. And if you're not going to listen, that's on you. That's why I always tell people are going to do what they want to do anyway. That's why you'll never see in somebody's comments, if they do something wrong on the video, you'll never see in somebody's comments like, hey, you should try this. People are going to do what they want to do.
And see, that's what triggered it from yesterday. So it was this girl on TikTok. So someone else commented, and they was right. They was right. They said pretty much she was basically talking about ball python husbandry and ball pythons and how you should keep them, blah blah blah. And someone went in the comments and they had years of experience and they pretty much said to the individual, you're 90% incorrect, and a person, of course, got defense and started challenging them back or whatever. And, they asked her pretty much how many, how much years experience you have. Well, I have this many experience. And this person only kept one ball python and you're making a general statement on an animal that you only have one of, type of scenario. And I was saying that for me, I'm not even bothering to comment, but does that make it right? Because if I'm trying to better the hobby, I should probably say the person who just responded to you is correct. To let that person or let other people maybe in the comments know that the information they just received may not be okay without saying you're wrong, type of thing.
Yeah, I think that's where a lot of us as reptile keepers struggle, because a lot of this information you can find on the internet, but it's one thing to read something, but it's a whole nother.
You see Reptile Bay comment. Oh, we can't hear you. Now he muted himself. We can't hear you. We can't hear you. Not yet. You might have to go out and come back in. Everybody finished their Christmas shopping or started? I'm always last minute. Always. And I prefer to order most stuff online.
All right, I'm back.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had a phone call and I just missed the right thing.
But go back to the point, because you was really going in.
Oh, shit, I gotta remember.
You was saying a lot.
Oh yeah, I don't.
Right, Elias.
I'm sorry. Nah, I don't. That's one thing I don't like about social media is people will often argue with somebody in the comments or barter something that they read online, not understanding. There's always a general rule for every animal. You keep animal this way, you keep animal that way, but a lot of people may not understand why this particular ball python is kept this way. Yes, we're supposed to keep them this way, but in order to meet this specific snake's needs, I have to keep this way. But people are allowing what's said on social, or not social media, on the internet, for it to be the general rule for reptile keeping, and it's not how it works. And I think we spoke on this before. You can't generalize snake care, not even for a species, because there's always the general rule and then there's always the exception. So ball pythons may be kept this way. However, if this particular snake isn't eating or is stressed out, then hey, maybe I have to keep it this way. And people don't want to acknowledge that. There's no specific, there's the general requirement, but based on what this particular animal needs, I may have to keep them differently. So allowing words to be your baseline for how you keep versus your experience. Me personally, I've learned quite a bit about scrub pythons. So generally speaking, scrub pythons are known to be nasty snakes. Mine is pretty chill for the most part. However, I also know that they're known to have a pretty nasty feeding response. Almost honestly, like a retic. Mine is very chill. So I think people want to read something and it makes them an expert. People want to, oh, I bred ball pythons. Okay, cool. You bred ball pythons. That does not make you an expert on all other species of snakes.
And breeding ball pythons don't make you an expert of keeping ball pythons, because that's another thing for me, because being a keeper first, I see a lot of ball python breeders who husbandry, honestly, is not like I wouldn't purchase from you, because I don't care. It's a rag. The animal shouldn't be kept like that, right? But for people who started off like breeding, you don't get the experience. Like right now, I don't have the experience with these ball pythons that I bred that I have with the ball pythons that I raised. You see what I'm saying? Like Busy, like these snakes don't know life because the way that Busy know it. You know what I'm saying? So I had the experience of keeping first and then breeding. So the disconnect that I have now, I can still educate my keeper, the person who's buying them, because I kept for so many years. But some people may have just started off breeding, and you're giving misinformation to the person you're selling to because you really don't know how to keep outside of a rag system. So that's something else to think about. Just because you breed something don't mean that you're the best keeper of it.
I think the quote "experience is the best teacher" is relevant for a reason. And it bothers me that a lot of people don't know how to do research. Again, they think reading something makes them an expert. No. That's why I have some of the crazy animals I got. It's simply because I started doing my research on those animals 8-9 months before I got them, so I could understand if this was an animal for me or not. You're not going to know that
for over 10 years, maybe more than that.
You're not going to know that in a week. But a lot of us are so impatient and used to that instant gratification that we have to have it. And we see it more times than not, where no matter what, at the end of the day, the animal is jeopardized because of it. And you have animals that need rehomed, or you have animals that are improperly cared for, or you have animals that are defensive because their person that has them can't deal with them. So it's tough to correct that sometimes, especially online, because people get defensive, and then they get defensive, and then they feel like they should attack you for a difference of opinion, and then based on that, you get canceled because they disagree.
Well, I think that's where the inbox is great. Like, so for me, like one of my personal pet peeves, and anybody knows it, is when people have snakes in a vehicle and they are not properly secured in some type of container and bag. Not both, bag and container. So I like to see the snake in a bag inside of a tub being transported. For the reason that if you're in a car accident and your head is bust open, that you don't get delayed treatment because a big ass snake is loose. If you think that paramedic who's scared of snakes can overcome that fear to save that your busted head, they gonna freak out. Yeah,
they call it a rhino viper or a cobra, completely
a cobra, you can forget it. Right.
It could be a freaking corn snake. And speaking of pet peeves, I think the biggest one that I don't like, that I see all the time, people smoking in their reptile room or smoking around their animals.
You know that drives me crazy.
I don't care. I don't care if it's a vape. I don't care if it's a cigarette. Whatever you're not supposed to be doing it. These animals were not. If you're not doing it in front of your kids, or some of y'all, well, not y'all, but some people have very questionable parenting, or whatever. If you can't do it in front of your kids, don't do it in front of your animals. And I don't understand why that has to be.
The reality of it is, it's something that you observe when you have to medicate an animal. For example, you have to medicate that animal in the very proper way because they don't have the respiratory system to cough up or to clear their airway, type of thing. And so just like they can breathe in everything else, definitely, like a room full of smoke is not good for any snake.
That ain't good for us. We just
I'm just saying, but specifically, at least we got the ability to cough it out. You know what I mean? To say, "Woo, smoke." You know.
Don't smoke no nasty ass cigarette around me. I'm smoking out your hand.
I've been researching rhino iguanas and growth canis for years and still haven't pulled the trigger.
Yeah,
So I'm definitely getting my rhino iguana in 2020. I'm just waiting for it to be born. I'm only getting it from Jeremy Bard.
You're welcome, Nicole.
Oh, shut up. Hey, tradesman, how are you?
Don't be disrespectful.
My students come to school smelling like weed. Bad example because these friends don't get. Wait a minute. So we were at a championship football game for my nephew at the same high school that I graduated from. And when I tell you that times have changed. My mother is sitting there and these kids just pulling out blunts. I'm like, look, and y'all know I ain't got no problem with a blunt, okay? Okay, if my mother ain't there, we can smoke too. All right, but my mama here. Y'all ain't gonna be smoking around my mama. I don't pull out no daggone blunt around my mama. My husband don't pull out no blunt around my mama. Like, you ain't gonna be doing that. Like, that's disrespectful. So it's a whole row of kids. And I'm like, y'all ain't gonna be smoking around my mama. And everybody turned around and looked, and them kids just got up and left. The crazy thing was the lady next to him, she said, see how you just made them clear? Their own parents couldn't have done that. She said, so it's not that the kids don't want guidance, the parents just don't guide them. Because they were not disrespectful. When I said y'all ain't gonna be smoking around my mama, all of them, it had to be about a good 10 of them on that road, got up and just moved somewhere else. Whereas though the respect should be taught in the household that you don't sit next to a 70-plus-year-old woman and pull out a blunt. I don't even care if she put, like my great grandmother smoked weed all her life up until the time she died. I wouldn't have pulled out no blunt with my great grandmother. My great grandmother would never even known that I smoked. So I would have never done that. Like, so it's like this new generation just have this level of total disrespect. Y'all won't see me on camera smoking. This whole thing, y'all don't see that. Ray, the first time you ever saw us, we was in Daytona. You never saw it until we never seen Daytona.
I'm too terrified of my mama because she a nurse, and I'm the youngest, so as far as she know, I am her most stand-up kid.
As far as she know, Lord Jesus is mama.
Hey, chill out.
If that's your most stand-up kid, Mom, oh Lord Jesus. No, I'm joking.
Okay. Don't you ever. She know.
I'm joking. Wait a minute. Well, let me say this. Well, at least he don't smoke weed. All right, I can say that. At least
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. Get out my business. Life is stressful. You already know.
Oh, God. Elias said 2023 parents don't know what respect is. That's why teachers quit every month. Look, I could not be a teacher. Well, I could be, but your kid to be punched in the throat on occasion. Throw a cell phone at me, I'm running across the room to get him, okay?
I'm going to be one of them teachers on Facebook.
Right.
Going to jail now? Because I be that.
Right.
That's just... Well, y'all know I'm short. My fuse is just as short. We got one time. Listen here, Jonathan.
The stuff these teachers spitting on a teacher, like, oh, your child will lose. So yeah,
lose all of this.
I love all the teachers. First of all teachers need $100,000 pay increase today. I don't understand why they are the most underpaid individuals. They teaching the people who save lives. They're teaching the people who's running our country. They're teaching the people who running our stock markets. Like, but they are paid less than those people they teach. Make it make sense. They don't go out back and pick a switch anymore in the show. Oh, we used to have to pick bamboo in the South. So my Aunt Ramel, she had a bamboo tree. Man, we wasn't doing nothing. Those rings on a piece of bamboo, woo, Jesus have mercy. You ain't felt nothing until you felt a bamboo stick on the shoulder. Exactly, Tracy. They don't know nothing about it. They call it child abuse. We were glad our parents got the bamboo and not the gun.
Listen, my dad said they call it child abuse, so I call it checking in. It's like,
no, I will never forget. True story. My mother was beating me one day and she put me in a headlock. And I said, I'm going to call 911. So she took me out the headlock and started choking me. And this was her exact words. But then tell him to bring the coroner. Because if I'm going to jail, it's going to be for murder. I'm like, I'm talking about this shit like, Mom. Like I think it was her. We had gave her, I think it was her 50th birthday party, and I told that story, and everybody was dying laughing. Like, I don't play with my mother because she does not wrap too tight. When she said, well, then she stopped, she took something out the headline and said,
Nicole, the Gemini, saying somebody ain't wrapped too tight.
oh no, my mother is really like my mother, even at the age she is now. Like, you want to deal with me, you want to come to me before you go to that crazy lady. My mother fight, man. My mother has driven cars backwards over people. Like she literally drove a car in reverse to run somebody over back. Like, my mother don't play.
You sound like that's where you headed.
I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, right.
You don't want to make her mad.
I ain't trying to make you mad. We already seen what happened with that. We're gonna tell that story one day too. The truth.
One day.
You be lying on me.
There wasn't no lying. That was the truth. Reptile is because I never knew Nicole.
Nah, we're gonna tell the people the truth. You out here lying on me. Like
I ain't lying. That was the truth. That was the
talking about I was being mean to you.
We're gonna do it. We're gonna have it made. We're gonna tell it New Year's.
You said what?
We're gonna tell it New Year's Eve. For our New Year's edition, we're gonna tell the story of the day that me and Dre were no longer friends for 24, 40 hours.
I didn't know we were no longer friends. I was just like, this was got me fucked up. I'll talk to her later though.
Conversations. Who talked to that besties like that? That shit was live. Like,
exactly. You needed to check yourself.
It went down. It's like, we're gonna tell y'all the story. I still got screenshots. But what y'all can't see is when the words went to voicemail. It went from words to voicemail.
Exactly. And her tone was all jacked up. Even when we asked Slim about it, Slim was like,
he came upstairs. He was like, who are you talking to? I'm like, Dre. He was like,
cuz you thought you was about to talk to me crazy. And I was like, oh, she got me fucked up. Nah.
Oh, it was funny. We're gonna tell the story one day. But I think we both learned something that day too. We can't talk about certain subjects. Like we can't disagree on certain subjects.
Well, Reptile Bay, that's very clear.
I've never had a whooping, and that explains a lot.
That's obvious.
Some kids don't need it. Like,
I didn't get whoopings. I got beatings.
Michael, you can look at Jada got beatings. My daughter got beatings. My daughter got squad up beatings. Like, you lucky I don't uppercut you and sink over this
nice studious man y'all see before y'all. I owe to them beatings I got. Them was some slave beatings I got.
Michael does not like to hurt my feelings. So even when he wants to be like ornery or whatever, like when he see that I'm upset, it hurts him to know that I'm hurt. Where my daughter don't give a fuck. So you gotta take her to, you gotta take her to her. Girl. Yeah. I told you, right? I'm telling you. When you made a comment about how pretty she is, I'm like, yeah, she pretty, but
just like her mama, pretty crazy.
Yeah, her mother is nothing like that. Like, I don't.
She got it from somewhere.
Well, I can't say her father. Her father is really silly, so maybe it is her mother. Maybe I'm not a mother.
Listen, all right, that's how that works. When my dad got old enough to where he was like, all right, bro, we're not using this belt no more. I went, listen, you need to chill out, okay? I'm too small for this. So, my brother and my dad, the genetics missed me on the height and the beard and everything. They both, they're bigger than me. They stockier dudes. Y'all got me fucked up. You must be. He was like, next time, it's you and me. I was like 14. And I was like, yeah, I am 14 and I look like I'm in 4th grade. Absolutely not.
Yeah, discipline got over the years got weaker and weaker. Because like if you hear the stories of our parents growing up, their discipline was even like my grandmother Cora shot my uncle Donnie in the ass because he whispered, kiss my ass. Okay, this is a true story. This is true massy shit right here, y'all. True massy shit. So my grandma Cora, Lord rest her soul, shot her own son in the ass because he whispered it, but she heard it, kiss my ass, and she kissed his ass all right.
Yeah. I'm good.
We had it easy. By the time it got to our generation, it was just bamboo stick. And then it went to with my kids' generation, it went to the belts. We retired the extension cord, and now they don't get beatings at all. Everybody want to have a counseling session, and that shit don't work for every child. Some children need to be literally jacked up, and you need to be able to know.
I'm not listen. I know y'all think my daughter is this cute, sweet little angel, but she's also 3. She does 3-year-old shit. So gentle parenting is not for me. So if daddy asks you to do something, I'm not going to ask you again. Because what's going to happen is I'm going to raise my voice. Usually when I raise my voice, she'll be like, but if I got to get up out of my seat, you're going to get some lightning behind it because I already asked you to do something.
That's the power of a father, though. My father was like that. My father didn't have to raise his voice. He just looked at us. Now, we would challenge my mother. And when I say challenge her.
That's the worst one to challenge.
I'm just saying, like, if she say something, like, for me, the one thing about me as a child, and my granddaughter's the same way, you can discipline me, but you want to respect me. Don't call me. You know how people just be heifers, bitches, and all. That ain't my name. And my daddy supported it. So if she ever calls you like a heifer or something like that, she already lost the fight with my father. So my father came home from work. Soon as he come in, Daddy, forget what I did. Mommy called me a heifer. And my father's favorite line was, if you want her name to be Heifer, Monique Massey, let's go down and change it. But until then, don't you call my baby Heifer. And my father was like that. Like, he didn't play. And he was a disciplinary. He'll punish you for 90 days. But he respectfully did it. You knew why you was being punished. You had some pre-warning not to do whatever you is that you got punished for. We had these conversations, because my daddy always had Sunday conversations. Even to this day, my morals and my etiquette comes from my father. You won't disrespect my father. I was saying all business.
I never.
He was alive.
I ain't never disrespected my mom because I already know if I disrespect my mom,
your mom look like she might
whatever my mom tells my dad is gonna be 10 times worse than it actually was. I'm not trying to deal with that, man. My dad from Detroit.
Or if you become one of them families where if you have, like, my mom had a bunch of brothers, so when it came to the boys, you didn't want all of the uncles coming disciplining you for the same stuff you were just disciplining for. Oh yeah, my uncles, they will show up on them boys in a heartbeat.
Listen, if that ever happened, me and my brother would look and be like, we would laugh. Like, get out of here. That's one thing I will say. Like how your dad was like, don't call her a name. My dad was like, ain't nobody punishing my kids but me. If it's a problem, I'm here. I'm gonna handle it. He did not like people stepping on his toes.
And our family, you can get universal beatings. Like, if you, and I tell people that even if we're not family, if you don't want your children disciplined, when my kids, but my kids got disciplined. So if you can send your children over here, you don't want them to be disciplined, don't send them over here.
Yeah. Oh no, if it was something like that, like we were at their house and my parents weren't present, then yeah. But me and my brother got in some big trouble. To call her,
it needs its own session, KT. It needs its own session. It was deep.
Oh yeah, it was because Nicole knows she fucked up. Nicole knows she was wrong. She started it.
Oh,
Nicole,
you know what?
I'm gonna say this. Nicole called me a bitch, y'all.
I did not say it. No, I did not. I didn't say call you a bitch. Oh, I got the receipts. I didn't call him bitch.
Whatever.
Bitch might have been in the content, like bitch, like
well,
bitch.
Just grouping me, I was like, I thought we was right on the same team, and then she started talking to me.
Scenario, the situation might have been bitch-like, but I did not.
Look, she was hot, and her glasses fogged up and everything. I already know.
I wouldn't have called you that. That word I reserve for people I absolutely hate.
Exactly, Bosa. Scandalous.
Look, both I didn't call him a bitch.
Downright.
I did not. I would not. Y'all put it this way. Those of you who know him, if I called him a bitch, like, you bitch, y'all know me and Dre wouldn't be talking today. Don't even try it.
Why is it on me? Like, you say no me. Why is it on me?
No, you wouldn't have never. If I said, come on. Just come on. This is keep it funky. Y'all, look, what time is it? It's time to go. Everybody have an amazing Monday.
I hope that
just reach all of your vision board goals. If you
Tiffany,
have,
you don't get nothing. Mind your business out here. Always in the mix. Always in the trouble. You just like Nicole. That's the problem.
thank you.
Gemini and the Aries. It's like what the world needs last. Anyways.
And I hope everybody just enjoy your day at work. If you at work, don't let nobody break your soul today. Keep going. Hey, Candy. Bye,
Sweet
Candy.
Jones.
Love y'all. Peace.